Good morning again, everybody. It's Michael here with your latest supply and demand market report, and this video is for the metals and agricultural complex. I hope you've all had a good trading week, as I have, and that you've traded safe. Before we begin, as always, please remember that this is purely for educational purposes only, and not a solicitation for you to buy or sell or do anything, in fact, with your money. Because I am not a financial advisor and I do not know your personal circumstances. So with that out of the way, we will start as we do with the metals and work our way through the ags. So let us begin with silver. So silver had a little bit of a nothing week. It made a new high but then closed back within the range. It's still holding the gains it made the previous week with that huge move up. The question now still remains as to how much of a pullback are we going to get? Are we going to get, a pullback to this demand zone down in here, which would be ideal, or are we going to form new levels in here? We could end up with this market pulling back and sort of taking out any highs and forming that kind of pattern and trying to go higher. The other scenarios we're talking about is coming all the way down here and pretty much try to do the same thing from this level. So we'll see what it does. For now, it's still pulling back. It's already looks like it's gone below that low. Let's see what that price is. I'm just going to put on the magnet. So that price there is 24,602 on this broker, and it's 24.59. So it's gone below it already. So it now is going to likely come to test these previous supply zones that have been broken through, and maybe this is where it's going to the buyers are going to try to make a stand and see if they can hold it from going to lower levels. But for now, it's nothing to do. We haven't yet reached this area for the longs to take some of their profit, and they'll be sitting through some heat over the next few days, I imagine, unless we go straight back up from here when we open on Sunday. But we'll see. I think that it's possibly going to pull back a little bit more and make this pattern. I'd be surprised and happily so if it does come all the way down here, but I'm also prepared for it not to do that. Okay, let's look at palladium. So palladium has come into this big area of supply that we've marked off, that we said was not the greatest in its quality at all, and you can see that prices are stalling in that area, not necessarily making any big moves yet. They are sitting in a poor quality demand zone for all sorts of reasons, not least the size of the move away. The fact that it was an immediate retest when it left, all of those kinds of things makes it not the greatest. But we are overall on the weekly chart, as you can see, still in a downtrend. If we start to take out this demand zone that I've just drawn in the box, then we will be left with we will likely be left with supply up into here. So watch for that. I'm not going to draw it in because it hasn't happened. We may end up still having this demand zone, as poor as it looks. We may end up with it holding and going up. But this market needs time to base. It needs time to base and, try and end the bleeding that has been happening for several months now in it before we start thinking about long-term, long trades. Okay, so yeah, maybe this is the first step in it, trying to end the bleeding and trying to start holding these levels in here, but it's not yet cooked yet. All right, moving on swiftly to platinum. So platinum has come into this level that we marked off last week, and it is reacting off of it. We had these two levels to watch, so if you're in this trade, it's not bad at all. So let's see how we get on. The quality of the zone, as I probably mentioned last week, isn't the greatest either, just because of the scoring system that I use. But in terms of looking for opportunities, I'm going to just go down one more time frame for you. It looks a bit ugly in there. Let's try and clean that up. So you're probably looking at a retest back into that level if you wanted to try the trade, that level there. That will be possibly the one to consider. Okay, so going on to gold. So gold had again the seller's week. You can see it did take out the supply that we were talking about, but sellers came in again and sold it down. We're now looking at gold possibly trying to come down into these levels. I'm not so keen on this level just because it is not a decent quality because of the formation on the weekly. That level is quite aggressive. So that's why I'm not keen on that. But do I see it? Yes. Is it possible? Yes. Is it an A+ setup? Absolutely not. So those are the kinds of things that I consider when I'm considering taking a trade. So where it is right now is not the best. That level lower is better. So we'll see if it bounces from here. It'll form new levels, and we'll look for opportunities to join it. But for now, it's still in the process of setting up. It's not fully set up yet. All right, and let's go to copper. So copper is also working through this weekly supply zone. So full disclosure, I took a trade in copper that I briefly mentioned in this video or in these videos last week. So I took that short into that level, and you can see that trade has worked out. It's already in management mode. I'm still in it, but it's already, I've taken some profits into it once it got into just over 3-1, I believe, and we'll see how the rest goes. But that's what we're looking at in copper for now. Supply zones are still holding. It's deciding what it wants to do, but looking at the weekly, we can see that the weekly has just rallied into a supply zone. Whether it'll come down to these lows here and then ultimately these lows, time will tell. Just watch and see if it forms any new levels as it goes down, and see if we can play it, maybe add to the position again or not. We'll see if the opportunities arise. But for now, there's no new levels just yet, but it is still possible that new levels will form definitely if it continues going down. If it continues to go, but if it goes back up, okay, so that would suggest that there's strength coming in on the weekly, and these kinds of zones, although they look really good, might not be the greatest unless it's going to base for a long time in here on the weekly before it does eventually fall, meaning that it also could do the opposite, base for a long time, absorb all the selling and go up. So yeah, I won't be taking the rally up to this level. I'll probably be out of my trade by then if it does come up into here. If it continues going down, I'll watch it for new levels and see if I want to add to my position again or not. But for now, nothing really to do. Okay. So let us go back to the daily on this one, and we will go now to the agricultural complex. So let's start with the futures sides of things. So we've had a decent week in soybean futures. I haven't checked the contract, so please let me just remove all the drawings. Please make sure you're on the right contract. If they've expired, I've just continued with what we had last week that one of our viewers asked for, so that's what I'm doing. So we're looking at soybeans coming up into all of this area of resistance that it's been at before. It is showing strength. If we're going to be looking to short this, because sellers did come in at the end of the week, ideally you wanted to take out this low, which might make it, difficult for a lot of people to wait this long to take this low out, because it probably won't take it out in one sweep, but it might. But you're more likely to get a pattern such as so. If it is going to go down, this is just one scenario. Doesn't mean this is a scenario that will happen. We could end up with this market holding at ugly. Let me go to that daily. So yeah, there isn't too much in terms of quality here, but it could end up holding levels in here as ugly as these levels are, which we wouldn't even consider this a level, but we know that the markets did rally from it, and traders have obviously tried to buy it from there. You can see the reaction on Friday when prices retraced back into that level. That suggests there was interest at that level because of the tail that was left. But comparing it to the big picture, which is why multiple time frame analysis is important, where it is right now, if someone put a gun to your head and said you have to take a trade, it wouldn't be to go long. Definitely not. But yeah, so just watching it, if it starts to pull back and take out this demand zone, for example, then maybe going short might be worth it because of where we are in the big picture. Okay. And going to corn, so corn also had a move up this week. Again, sellers came into it. What is interesting in corn for me, and I'll take off these arrows, is the fact that corn 4 weeks ago had this big move down and couldn't go anywhere. There was no follow through. If anything, it was seen as an opportunity to buy. That's a interesting observation of what has happened in the market. So I'm thinking this market is looking for a period of consolidation rather than it's continuing to go down. A lot of people sadly would have gotten short, as the prices were dropping all right through here and thinking it was going to continue down. And many of them are either out now or underwater. And you can see on the daily what it's done in taking out, resistance levels, taking out supply levels. You now have a situation where if this market drops again, you're going to have buyers. In fact, buyers might start being interested from there, but ultimately from around there, you'll have buyers being interested. So going into a period of consolidation, working off of these lows, trying to build a base to see if it can hold to go down. So I say all of that to say the supply levels up here, if this scenario I just described happens, where we base, lower down here and ultimately go do something like that, these would not be ideal to short, guys. It would probably not be a good idea to take them. They might be used as profit targets, but not to initiate new shorts, because you'll probably find buyers really close by eating into your profit margins. But that's long term. We don't know how this will play out. What we do know is that buyers are beginning to come in. Is it time to engage them? Not quite yet. Not quite yet. If you're a shorter term trader using the daily as your big picture, yeah, you've got levels below you that you could play and observe as prices come into it. If prices come down into this level as a short term daily income trader, intraday trader, might be an area of interest for you. For the weekly, daily, 4-hour trader, it's still a waiting game. Okay. And we go to wheat. So wheat, similar picture. Wheat has come into the level. We had this level marked last week. It didn't quite make it back into it, and it probably didn't fulfill all of our criteria, or it might have done. Yeah, it might have done on that move up. So we'll see when prices come down. Let me just take out these lines. So yeah, that level is still the one I would take if prices were to try to come down. Again, this is a market that is stopping the bleeding, or has stopped it actually. What has happened, all the selling that's happened on this side, now it's trying to hold the gains that this initial move up here, it's trying to hold those gains. Again, you see the selling that happened, 4 weeks ago. It just ended abruptly and prices went all the way back up into that level. So yeah, watch that and see if it matches. I mean, you see the similarity between this chart and this one. So the levels of supply up in here, this was the only one that was here. There aren't those ones. So this was at the extreme for a market that's basing, that moved up strongly into it. Yeah, that made this potential trade possible. If we go, as this one is not going up as much, but is likely now, given what it's done, to end up doing something like that, that's why I said not a good idea to really look for those ones. This sort of rapid move that it did in wheat made this trade not too bad, because you would be selling high and looking to buy low. That would be the model you would be trading here. Okay, so that's that one, and I believe the last one is sugar. We'll use the CFD chart for sugar. So here's sugar rising up into weekly supply, and didn't quite make it all the way down to the weekly demand that we were looking at. And it is holding, as you can see. Let me take out this dark one, might be obscuring your view. It is holding demand zones. It's not breaking them and forming even new ones as it's going up. So you have strength to the upside coming into weekly supply. This would be the set and forget trade up into that weekly. You would be going against a strong trend on the daily, shorting as it rises into this area. So we've talked on this channel about various ways to engage this type of trade. This is just one of them, probably the more aggressive style, but definitely a style, which will require more qualification. I mean, the strength away from that level was significant, very significant. So how prices arrive into this level is now going to be what the thing is to watch, and see how it does that, and then look for the tactics to use to try to engage this market. Okay, so that's what's that, 18 minutes almost, so I will leave it at that. Thank you all for watching. I hope the video is helpful, and if you have any questions, just put it down in the chat or email me at storehouseanalytics@gmail.com. Thank you all again. Bye for now.